Welcome! Today we're breaking down a really fascinating religious sermon that tackles something literally every single one of us struggles with. I'm talking about patience, or as it's known in the Islamic tradition, Sabr. Now, you might think you know what patience is, but this is a deep, profound concept that goes way beyond just sitting around and waiting for things to happen. Okay, let's dive into this explainer and see exactly how we can take this ancient wisdom and directly apply it to the absolute chaos of our hyper-fast modern lives.
Here is our quick roadmap for today's explainer. First, we'll hit the core of Sabr. Then, we'll look at the modern dilemma. After that, we'll explore the ultimate divine gift. And finally, we'll wrap up with the triumphs of patience.
All right, let's kick things off with Section 1, the core of Sabr, the true foundations of patience. To really grasp why this concept carries such immense theological weight, we have to look at the foundational text of this tradition. The Qur'an actually mentions patience over 100 times in various contexts. 100 times. So the crucial point is that when a foundational religious text repeats a concept this frequently, it absolutely ceases to be just a casual suggestion. It becomes an essential, non-negotiable life manual. It's basically the universe's way of telling you, hey, you are going to need this tool to survive.
But what exactly is it? Well, the speaker brilliantly breaks down a specific verse from Surah Al-Imran, highlighting two very distinct words. First, you have Sabr. This refers to enduring personal hardship, things like an illness, a sudden financial loss, or the grief of losing a loved one. But then there's musabara. This is entirely different. This is specifically about enduring hardship that is caused by adversaries, like when people are actively working against you, mocking you, or purposely causing you harm. It's such a brilliant distinction because it makes the ancient text so accessible, perfectly separating our internal personal trials from our external conflicts with others.
Which brings us right to Section 2, the modern dilemma, and how we're essentially losing our patience.
Despite having access to all this profound ancient wisdom, modern society is really failing at this. And this brilliantly illustrates the pure irony of our situation today. Think about our material abundance. We've got full freezers, massive wardrobes bursting with clothes, and honestly, more financial resources than ever before. But flip that coin and look at our emotional deficit. We have practically zero tolerance. Relationships are snapping left and right. The speaker actually uses a highly relatable, almost funny example. Think about fasting all day during Ramadan to learn spiritual discipline, only to completely lose it and get into a shouting match at the yogurt shop during Sehri, or bitterly arguing with someone while buying groceries in the evening. It's crazy, right?
It really forces us to stop and ask ourselves, are religious rituals completely losing their purpose without the foundation of patience? Think about the stark irony here. What is the point of the rigorous physical discipline of fasting if we spend the entire last hour before iftar obsessively watching the clock and snapping at anyone who dares to speak to us? If that basic foundation of patience is totally abandoned, the ritual doesn't elevate us, it just becomes an exercise in starvation.
So, how do we actually fix this? Let's shift gears to Section 3, the ultimate divine gift and the concept of spiritual elevation. This is where the source material completely reframes our spiritual perspective on those daily hardships. The tradition lays out a truly fascinating logic regarding our intentions. It says, if you intend to avoid begging, you will be protected from it. If you intend to be self-sufficient, you will be made so. And, most importantly for us, if you simply make the firm intention to be patient, you are actively granted the divine strength to actually pull it off. The divine help doesn't just show up randomly, it is triggered the exact moment you make the conscious choice to try. This perfectly leads into a beautiful quote from the Hadith. The best and most expansive gift anyone can receive is patience. Now, we so often view patience as a heavy burden, don't we? Just this frustrating punishment where we're forced to wait for what we want. But the text reframes this entirely. Patience isn't a punishment at all. It is the ultimate protective and elevating gift that smooths out the relentless friction of our everyday lives.
In fact, the sermon details a really fascinating theological concept here. Sometimes a person's regular, everyday good actions just aren't quite enough to reach those higher spiritual ranks on their own. So, God uses hardship. By enduring that specific difficulty with patience, an individual's spiritual status is instantly elevated. It doesn't require extra physical exertion or endless hours of extra prayers. The hardship itself literally becomes the ladder, provided, of course, you choose to climb it with patience.
Now, let's move into our final section, Section 4, Triumphs of Patience, where we look at the historical proof.
This is the climax of our explainer, where we step out of abstract theology and look at undeniable historical reality. When dealing with adversaries, the Prophet laid out a very specific three-step approach for believers. Step 1, do not seek conflict. The default state should absolutely always be peace. Step 2, if conflict is forcefully thrust upon you, face it with immense patience. And step 3, stand firm. You see, patience here is not about being passive or weak, not at all. It is about having an anchored, unshakable resilience right in the face of hostility.
The ultimate historical proof of this, as powerfully cited in the sermon, is the tragedy of Karbala. The tyrant Yazid celebrated what he mistakenly thought was a swift military victory. But true historical and spiritual victory didn't belong to the swords that day. It belonged entirely to the unshakable patience of Hussain ibn Ali. The tyranny was temporary, but the triumph of that stunning patience, that echoes through eternity.
But perhaps the most emotionally charged example from the source material is the epic, truly heartbreaking struggle of a woman named Hazrat Salama. Her story is an absolute masterclass in unbroken resolve, and it starts with her family being violently torn apart right at the perilous borders of Medina.
Let's move to and see how this builds across an agonizing timeline. On day 1, as she tries to migrate, her family forcefully and violently separates her from her husband. Then, her husband's family rips her young son away from her, and the physical struggle is so brutal, they literally dislocate the little boy's arm. For an entire year, months 1 through 12, she practices complete solitary patience. She goes out to that border every single day, mourning and crying, but crucially, she never once complains to God. By year 1, her steadfastness is so undeniable that her captors' hearts finally soften, and they relent. And by week 53, a man named Uthman ibn Talha safely and respectfully escorts her on the long journey back to Medina. And just look at the immense reward she reaped purely through that unbroken patience and her absolute trust in divine timing. She wasn't just reunited with her son. She wasn't just reunited with her husband. She actually secured a permanent, highly revered home right in the Prophet's city. She didn't try to force the timeline, she endured it with incredible grace, and eventually, the universe delivered everything back to her.
Which honestly connects perfectly back to us today. The speaker sharply critiques our modern habits, and it hits close to home. We constantly demand instant results for our prayers. We want the amulet to work yesterday. We want the complex problem solved the very minute we ask for help. We're always rushing the process, completely forgetting the timeline of the divine. And in doing so, we completely miss out on the spiritual elevation that the waiting period is specifically designed to give us.
I want to conclude this explainer with a really provocative thought to leave you with. Are you complaining to the Creator about the timing of His plans? It's a heavy thought, right? True patience isn't just about the act of waiting, it's about exactly how you behave and what your heart is doing while you wait. Stop rushing the results, embrace the profound structure of patience, and just see how it transforms your daily life. Thanks so much for exploring this with me today, and I'll catch you on the next explainer.